Okay, new sugya. A couple of about 3 daf now. I think it's going to be halachas about what would you call it? Something general about foods that is there not after very general like shasagis. You have to do with other halachas also. Pesach, there's a big sugim psachim also, and has to do with tam keiter and kedechilas pras and Heparin Staff Lister is the first one. So about 3 daf now is going to be a general sugyas that have to do with nazir also, but also it's considered more general. So we're on Lamed Hey Amud Beis. Amar Abavohu, Amar Rabbi Yochanan.
Amar what?
Amar Abavohu.
Yeah, I see.
Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Kol Yisurin Shebatorah Ein Heter Staff Lister Chutz Me Yisurin Nazir. So we know you have to have a kazayas. We Mishnah spoke about the shares of kazayas and revius. And it seems like Mishnah Achrona said a kazayis both for eating and for drinking. So the share is kazayis, like other Yisurim also, there's a kazayis.
Oh, so the heter doesn't.
I didn't say it. I didn't explain it yet. I didn't say anything yet. I didn't even translate it.
Oh, good.
I just said that they have to have a kazayis, always have to have a share. So now he says that all Yisurim of the Torah, heter, does not combine with the Isser to make the share. If you need a kazayis, you have to, it's also to eat Yisurim, it's also to eat a kazayis of nevela. So if you have less than a kazayis of nevela and it's mixed with other things, and altogether there's a kazayis, but some is isser and some is heter, so you didn't need a kazayis of nevela, so you didn't do the isser. You have to have a kazayis of the isser.
Don't add it to a heter.
The heter doesn't combine to the shear of the isser to make the yava kazayis.
Prohibited.
But turn the camera on, please.
Well, oh, thank you. Where am I? Was not going. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So, Kol Yisurin Shebatorah Ein Heter Mistaf Leser. That usually all over the Torah does. You don't have such a thing that the heter it's mutter food. It's not going to combine to the isser to make a shir kazayis. That's pashut, right? We would say, well, what kind of thing would that be? But there is an exception. Chutz me Yisurin Nazir. By Nazir, even if you have not the whole kazayis of Isser, there's some heter over there, it's also going to combine to the shir. And it says, the source, Sharei Omer Torah Mishras. It says in the pasuk Mishras, V'chol Mishras Hanavim Lo Yochel. Maybe it gives us
soaking.
So soaking, and it means if you soak something, steeped the wine, the bread.
Okay, we have the bread.
That's going to be the case. We didn't have it yet, but now we're going to have it. That if you had bread that was soaked with the wine, and altogether there's a kazayis. Means that without the bread it wouldn't be kazayis. But altogether there is a kazayis. It also is chayiv. So that's a big chiddush. Here's the pasuk. Number 2 over here. Yain v'shechor yazir chometz yain v'chometz shechor lo yishteh v'chol mishras hanovim lo yishteh. He shouldn't drink a soaking of grapes. So I'm not sure if this is the pasuk shot in the pasuk. Things that grapes were steeped in, you might have said. But the Gemara says that if you had bread that was saturated with wine, and altogether it's a kazayas, even though you have to have the bread also for the kazayas, it's considered a kazayas. So this is a chiddush that the Torah says by nazir, and Rabbi Yochanan said it's only by nazir, there's no place else. And that's how he says it. Kol Yisurin Shebatorah, you don't have that the heter should combine to the isser. One exception, nazir. By nazir, the Torah says mishras, so over there, the heter is mitzvah to the isser. Amud Aleph. Was that Lamed Vav Amud Aleph? Ziri Amar. I put it in parentheses for 4 lines, 5 lines, because it's not going to affect the main sugya now. Ziri says there's another example, another case besides Nazir. Ziri Amar Av Sa'or Bal Taktiru. There's Isser Ki is Chol Sa'or V'Chol Davash Lo Taktir Mimenu Yishal Hashem, that you're not allowed to put Sa'or on the Mizbech. You're not allowed to be maktir Sa'or. Sa'or is chametz. So nothing to do with Pesach. You're not allowed to put Sa'or on the Mizbech. Always when you make menachas, it has to be matzah. Called menachas bos matzah. You're not allowed to make chametz on the Mizbech. So he's saying that over there also there's a certain shear, and less than the shear is also going to combine with the Isser. If you have chametz and matzah, you have a combination of chametz and matzah, and you maktir on the Mizbech. Altogether it's a kazayis. Also, another exception. The Gemara asks where's Rav Ziri get it from? Kaman Kabbalazar, the Darish Kol. There's a question about the word kol. There's a kol coming to me. The word kol when it says ki chol sar, b'chol davash. So he learns the word kol to be marba even less than a shear. we'll try to read the Gemara plain. Maybe it needs some more detail in order to explain it. But so far it says that this is dependent on the Joshua Kol. If you darshan Kol, you learn now Kol Sor, any kind of Sor. Any Sor. What does any Sor mean? So his darshan is even less than a shir. But of course, it doesn't mean less than a shir mamish. It means if you have a combination that robust with something else, altogether this exayis, but it wasn't a exayis of chametz alone. It was also with matzah. Also, there's going to be a iser lo taktiru. Yes.
I don't see the pasuk. Is it bal taktiru or bival taktiru?
Like you say, you ever heard of bal yeruah, bal yematzah? You ever heard of that expression, bal yeruah, bal tashchis?
Yeah.
What is it? It doesn't say in the Torah bal tashchis. It doesn't say in the Torah bal tashchis. Never says bal tashchis. It says lo sashchis Allah. So lo sashchis. So the word bal is Aramaic for the word lo. And when it says in the Torah lo taktiru, when the Gemara calls it, instead of saying lo taktiru, it says bal taktiru. The same as bal tashchis or bal yeruah. So there's the iser lo saktiru.
Thank you. Okay.
And then Aramaic, you call it Baal. Baal is not the same in Aramaic.
So the first base is not. They're not even. That's not part of the quote.
Af Saor.
With this pasuk, which I'm going to say in Aramaic, Baal, and then the really the pasuk.
Interesting. Af Saor. Interesting. I didn't notice that other base. Baal taktiru. Okay, I didn't notice that.
Okay, I mean they have it like a. They say it like it's a quote here, and then I don't have a Mikra Kodesh to see.
So or Bibal taktiru. Interesting. I didn't notice that.
Okay.
Let's see anybody else. So yeah, all of them have the base.
Oh, here it is. I see it way down here. I just didn't see it.
What do you see? What do you have down there?
Or Bakal Davash Lo Saktiru. There you go.
So you want to know what the extra base is?
Well, now I know it's just with this pasuk.
Or you'll be over lo taktiru, even if it's a combination of heter together with this. And the Gemara explains where does he get it from? Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Eliezer, that he darshans kol, and that's the pasuk kol saor ki chol saor b'chol davash lo taktiru, and that kol is going to be marba, even if it's not a kazayas of chametz alone. It's going to be a combination of chametz and kazayas, chametz and matzah. Then also there's isra of lo taktiru. But the Gemara is asking, yihachi linyan chametz nami. There's a pasuk that says ki kol machmetzas lo sochelu. That if you're going to dash in the coal, it's coming to be marba, that even if you didn't have only whole kazayas, there's also isra of bal taktiru on the mezbeach. But the word chametz of eating on Pesach also it says ki kol machmetzes, kol zelosa you shouldn't eat. So you should say over there also that there's going to be isra of eating chametz even if it's not all chametz. If you had a shear of kazayas of chametz on Pesach, it'll be over. Even if it wasn't all chametz, it was a combination. So the Gemara says, yes, Raziri holds that saor and also chametz, two more additions, not only nazir, altogether the three. So why did he say saor? He should have said both of them. Allah fukim Abaye. Abaye would not be able to. That's question how you learn the Gemara over there. And Abaye says that you're chayav for being maktir saor on the mizbech even less than the kazayis. He knows there's no share, even less than the kazayis. It depends how you learn the drushes over there. But Abaye comes out that you're not chayiv, you don't need a kazayis to be chayiv. Usually, like the eating, you have to have a kazayis. But he says that for the isser of putting on the mizbeach, burning on the mizbeach something that's chametz is even less than the kazayis. So he doesn't have the whole issue about is it mitzvah to a kazayis because he doesn't need a kazayis.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense that according
that's
to
he didn't
talk about that. Abaye wouldn't have talked about Abaye would say even according to Rabbi it's only going to be chametz, but he wouldn't be able to talk about saor because he holds that saor doesn't need a kazayis in the first place. But Ziri wanted to say that saor does need a kazayis, but it's mitzvah. That is mitzvah for iser. Abaye would say that there's a iser to be marked even less than the kazayis, so then he wouldn't have the whole subject. Kamash Malan. So Ziri wants to say that even by Bal Taktiru also you have to have a kazayis, and the chiddush is that the heter is mitzvah for iser. So in general, we said one halacha so far. That by nazir, especially by nazir, it says mishras over there. Learn out that even if there's not a mixture of the wine alone, only together with the bread, you have bread soaked in wine. So you had a kazayis all together. So there's a malchus, there's a isser of isser daraisa of eating a kazayis of wine, even though it wasn't all wine. That's called heter mitzvah isser. And more has on. There might be other places also, maybe sour, maybe chometz that sour bal taktiru, the sour of not being makter on the mizbeach. And chametz eating on Pesach, that also over there, there's a shir kazayis, and it could be that according to the Rabbi Elazar, the Darshan's call, he's going to say that it's come to be marba even if you have a mixture, even if you have to have a kazayis, but even if the kazayis is also with heter, the heter also is mistarif to the Isser to make the shir kazayis. And then was going to ask that there are more cases also. Now more continues. This is not Afghan Ziri, this is on everybody. That everybody nazir, maybe sore, maybe chometz, but not more is going to ask that there are more cases. Yeah,
It's only on Yochanan?
I think it's not only a Bechon, it's in Ziri also. No? That how can we only say this one case or these three cases? There are more. Yosef Avdimi, become Allah Shmaita. So Avdimi was saying over the Gemara, the memory of Rabbi Yochanan, maybe of Ziri, and Abaye Rakasha that he has more cases. Esvi Abaye, Mishnah, Mikvah Shel Truma, Vashum Vashem Shel Chulam. Mikvah is a kind of a porridge, some kind of a that kind of a consistency. Any other name for it? Farina, something like that. Some kind of a porridge that also the ingredients also had oil and garlic. That's what you would put into this mixture. So the main dish is the mikvah, that's the porridge, and you also have shum and shemen. So here you have mikvah shel truma, the grain, let's say, that you made this porridge out of was truma, and the shum and the shemen were chulin. You put in garlic and oil that were chulin. B'nagad ful yom b'mikzasim. And at full yom was a person who was tamei, he went to the mikvah, and he didn't yet have harav shemesh. Today he became tova. He was tova today. He's still his first day of being tova. He didn't yet have that the sun didn't come down on him. That's called harav shemesh. So he still is has level of a sheni. And if he touches truma, it can become a shlishi. Chulin is not susceptible to become a shlishi, only a sheni. Truma could even become a shlishi. So if a full yom touches chulin, nothing happened. But if a full yom touches truma, he made it possible. He possible the truma because he's a full yom and he's like a sheni, and he touches the truma, becomes a shlishi. So here you have some truma and some chulin. This mixture, you have that the porridge itself is truma, but garlic and the oil is chulin, and the tful yom touched, let's say, the garlic. If you touch the truma, you touch the truma. But if you touch the garlic, does he make the truma should become pasul? So it says pasul is chulin. He pasuls the whole thing because the garlic and the oil, even though you see it but still it becomes bottled to the whole thing. And it's like part of the whole dish. And if you touch it, it's as if you touch the truma becomes possible. How about the opposite case? It seems the Gemara is not going to ask on that, I'm not sure. But the Sefer continues, mikvah shel chulin, vashum vashem shel truma. The opposite case, that the porridge was chulin, and you had the oil and the garlic, that was the trumas. The nugget full yom b'mikzasan, and the full yom, this person who's like a sheni, he touched the garlic or the oil. Lo pasal elamokam ago.
Well, doesn't miktsatsa mean just a portion of the mixture? How can you touch just the garlic or the oil? It's a whole porridge.
Well, it depends how big the pieces of garlic are. It doesn't mean garlic powder, it means pieces of garlic. And you touch the piece of the garlic.
And the first case was he touched a piece of the.
I think both of them, the mikzasan, that they were trying to talk about, doesn't say mikzasa, it says mikzasan with a plural. So I think they're saying it's going on the shum and the shemen. And not that you touch the porridge, but you touch the garlic and the oil. There's a puddle of oil over there that he stuck his finger. So does it puzzle everything? So the Resha that the shum and the shemen were chulin, so really shouldn't have done anything, but it becomes bottled to the whole thing, and therefore it's as if he touched the truma, the whole truma, everything becomes puzzle. In the Sefer, the porridge itself is chulin, and he touched the shum and shemen of truma. He only puzzles what he touched, because why? Because he didn't, the rest of it is chulin. You're not going to say the rest of it is going to become truma. The rest of it is not truma. The mikvah is chulin. But the part that he touched is truma, and that's what he puzzles. He doesn't puzzle the whole thing. He only puzzles the place that he touched, which is the shum and the shemen, that thing that he touched. And the rest of it doesn't become puzzle. The rest of it is still chulin.
Is that the end of the brisa?
That's the end of the brisa. I think it's even a mishnah. It's a mishnah, they say a mishnah and full yom. Okay. So what does the Gemara want? Over there we asked the kasha, when we were learning that mishnah, we had the problem. Mokam magoya my puzzle. Why should the place that he touched itself, why should it become puzzle? So there are two pshatim in the Gemara over here. We'll go with the simpler pshat. The Gemara is asking, why doesn't it become batal? Why don't you say that the shum and the shemen is batal? Since most of it is chulin, they use a little bit true over there. The shum and the shemen. Why don't you say it becomes batal? That was a kasha we had when we learned the mishnah in Tvul Yom. We had the kasha that in the sefer, when he touched the shum and the shemen, since it's only a little bit, it should batal to the whole dish. And it shouldn't have its own identity to become puzzle as if it's truma. That's how some learn eat it, he would be chayiv malchus feeding a kazayis of it, which means l'chora that even though it's mixed in, it's not batal, because he'd be chayiv malchus for eating the mixture of it, a kazayis of the mixture. That there is, even though it's mixed in. And the Gemara is asking that what does it mean you look at chayiv malchus for kazayis? What does he mean to say? He must mean that even though he didn't eat a kazayis of the garlic alone, he ate also with the porridge with the porridge. So it's gonna be mitzvah to be chayiv for eating the kazayis of truma. If that's what he says, that's what I meant to say. So you see that heter mitzvah even by truma. If Rabbi Yochanan meant to say that the reason why the shuman and the shemen is not batal and you're chayiv, it's like you touched the truma. When you touch the garlic, you touch truma. It is truma, but why did they say it's batal? Because it has a chashivos. If you'd be eating a kazayis, you would be chayiv for eating truma. Now, it doesn't mean if you pick that, that's what Avrohom say, it doesn't mean if you're going to pick out all the garlic and eat it because the ice of the garlic is still there. That would be too far-fetched to say that now that it's mixed in, it still should have its identity. You have to pick it out. Right now, it's not picked out. Right now, it's mixed into the porridge. So that wouldn't be a reason that you chayiv, because you could pick it out and collect the kazayis of garlic. But the Gemara means to say that even if you would eat it as is, in the mixture, you also would be chayiv for kazayis. It must mean the heter mitzvah l'isser, as the Gemara continues. My time, what does Avrohom mean to say that a zar would be chayiv malchus feeding a kazayis of the mixture? Doesn't he mean doesn't he mean to say that the porridge also is going to combine together with the garlic, and you ate a kazayis of the whole mixture, even though there wasn't a kazayis of the garlic and the oil, only together with the porridge, you also chayiv malchus. So don't you see that the Avrohom says that even by truma, you say heter mitzvah l'isser?
You can't have it both ways, though. If you said that he touched the oil, but you're giving an answer for Rav Yochanan is that it would mitzvah, that even if it's not considered mitzvah even when it's mixed in. So then it's not considered mitzvah even though it's mixed in.
No, we're saying that it is. The more seems to say that if he would eat a kazayis of the mixture, he would be chayiv for eating a kazayis of truma. So therefore, it's not batal. And therefore, it has its identity still. And if you touch it, it's like you touch truma. The Gemara's question was, how come if you touch the garlic and the oil, how come it becomes puzzle? You look at it like truma. Shouldn't it be batal in the mixture and it's not, that loses its identity? Right now that it's mixed in, doesn't it lose its identity? So Yochanan said no, because if you eat a kazayis of the mixture, you would be chayiv for eating truma. And the Gemara thinks that those words mean that heter mitzvah l'isser. Which direction are we going? We're trying to find out why it has its identity still. It says here that he pastels makam agon means if he touches the oil and the garlic, it is still truma, and he made it pastel because the full yom touched truma. And the Moskasha, why? And the Farshim explain why. Means it should be batal. And the answer it should be batal. And the answer is that if you eat a kazayis of it, doesn't mean the kazayis of the garlic and oil alone.
Even if you ate
it as is, the way that it's mixed in, you eat a kazayis of it, you'd be chayiv malchus. Doesn't that mean that the porridge is also combining, the porridge is chulin, and you eat a kazayis of the mixture, you didn't eat a kazayis of garlic and oil alone, you ate the porridge also. And there's a chiyuv eating truma, a zarei truma. So don't you see, that's what the Avrohom seemed to say.
Okay.
If that's what he meant to say, so then you see heter mitzvah l'isser also by truma.
Okay.
Answer, Lay. Who said two again? Who was this kasha? This was Rav Dimi. Abaye asked Rav Dimi. Rav Dimi said over the Gemara. Abaye asked this kasha, and Rav Dimi is going to explain Rav Yochanan. Abaye was asking a contradiction on Rav Yochanan, and Rav Dimi is going to defend Rav Yochanan. Amalei lo. Rav Yochanan didn't mean that. Over there, what did he say? That a zar would be chayiv malchus for eating a kazayis. It doesn't mean what you think, that he ate a kazayis, some total ate a kazayis, and it has some truma and some chulin, and the whole thing is considered truma. No, it doesn't mean that. My kazayis, the kazayis b'chtei achilas pras. If he would eat a pras, a kazayis is a kazayis, the size of an olive. A pras is, the word pras means half a bread. There's a loaf that's a certain size.
But we're talking about a time.
So let's talk about that. Usually when we talk about kazayis b'chtei achilas pras, usually what we're familiar with is that it's only a time measure. The time it would take to eat a pras of food, which is about 4 eggs or 3 eggs, machlokes if it's 3 or 4 eggs, volumes, and a kazayis to 3 eggs is very little proportion, or to 4 eggs even less. But if you ate a kazayis slowly, you took first I'm saying not what the Gemara says, first what we talk about. We talk about, let's say, matzah. On Pesach, you have to eat matzah. On Sukkot, you have to eat bread, kazayis of bread. Or every time you take a bracha, kazayis with a chiyal plastic. So you ate it, it's like the volume of the whole food that ate was only kazayis, but you ate it in small bits. I don't know what you'd call that, not a morsel, piecemeal. And it took you a long time to eat that kazayis. Kazayis is very small, it's the size of an olive, but you ate it half a zayis, and then later on you ate another half a zayis. So how much time is still considered that you ate it within time that's considered one eating? So if you ate a kazayis and the time that it takes to eat 3 eggs, 4 eggs, that's still considered one eating, and you ate a kazayis. That's what you're familiar with. Here we're talking something even more basic. You have a food mixed in to a different kind of food. Here you have garlic of truma that's mixed into a porridge. How much porridge do you have to eat? Porridge mixed in. How much mixture of the porridge and the garlic and the oil? How much do you have to eat in order to get a kazayis of the garlic and the oil? You're eating chulin and truma mixture. How much would you have to eat? The proportion. How much is it mixed in? The proportion that when you would eat a kedei achilas pras, you need a pras, 4 eggs worth of the whole mixture, you would have gotten at least a kazayis of the truma. If it were so much kazayis, but achilas pras, not a time. Here it's talking about actual food. The volume. So if you have a kazayis proportionally mixed into achilas pras, so that's what Avrohom meant to say. You asked the kasha, how come the garlic and the oil are? And let's just talk about the garlic, because there's oil also. It doesn't make a difference. That's an expression. That's an example. But let's just talk about the garlic instead of saying oil each time. So you have the porridge and you have the garlic. And the question was that the garlic should be bottled. And even if you touch the garlic, it shouldn't become true. It shouldn't be truma. It should be like it disintegrated. It's not here. So he says no, because it is possible to be chayv malchus feeding a kazayis. First, the Gemara thought that altogether you just ate a kazayis. You took a kazayis of this mixture. Part of it was the garlic, part of it was the porridge, and Yechayir. So the Gemara thought that's another way of saying heter mitzvah l'issa, because you didn't eat a kazayis of the garlic. The Gemara says no, that's not what he meant to say. He meant to say that you could still eat a kazayis of the garlic if the proportion of the garlic to the porridge was not smaller than a kazayis with achilas pras. So when you ate, if you eat a pras of the porridge, you would have gotten a kazayis of the garlic. But not saying that less than a kazayis of garlic. No, we're not going to say heter mitzvah l'issa. This is not nazir. This is not sour. This is not chametz. We're talking about truma. Truma, you don't say heter mitzvah l'issa. So surely only going to be chayiv. The zar is only going to be chayiv malchus feeding a kazayis of the garlic. But he did eat a kazayis of the garlic if he would eat within the kazayis within the kedei achilas pras. It has to be within the time also, but it's not only a time issue. That's not batal, because even though you have it mixed in, but you still can get a kazayis within achilas pras. Let's say it has so little garlic that even if you would eat a pras of the mixture, you wouldn't get a kazayis. You'd have to eat more than a pras to get that kazayis. So it's too much of a time factor. The time factor is
I see.
It's too much of a if it's so little garlic that in order to get a kazayis of the garlic, you have to eat more than a pras, so you won't be able to eat a kazayis
eating the garlic
within a kazayis, within the time span of a one kazayis. So that's the answer, and we really finished the Gemara for today. As far as our sugya called heter mitzvah l'issa, we finished. We're going to have a couple of pages, but so far we finished the sugya because we said that there's only by nazir. Avrohom said only by nazir. Rav Zivi said also by Sor Bal Taktiru and by Chametz also. The Gemara and Kashi, you see it by Truma, because by Truma, Avrohom says that the Mishnah said over there that the garlic mixed into the porridge, the garlic of Truma is not batal, and Avrohom explained it's not batal because you still can be chayiv malchus feeding a kazayis of it. And the Gemara thought that it means heter mitzvah l'issa, because altogether he ate only a kazayis of the mixture, and he says Yechayiv, why Yechayiv? He didn't eat a kazayis of Truma. So it must be heter mitzvah l'issa. The Gemara explains no. Over there, the point is that you ate a kazayis of garlic, as long as it's but the achilas pras of the whole mixture. but you did eat a kazayis of the Isser. It's not because hetem mistaflis of the
garlic
truma, and not that you're going to be combining the porridge to become a kazayis. No, you don't say hetem mistaflis Isser, and only if you have a kazayis of the garlic. But it's possible to be chayiv because even though it's mixed in to the whole porridge, how could you be chayiv? You can be chayiv by eating a press, and you would have eaten a kazayis of the garlic. That's why it's not bottle, and therefore if you touch the garlic, it still has its identity, and you touch truma, and it becomes possible. That's the end of the Gemara.
Okay, and that defends Rabbi Yochanan.
And that answers Rabbi Yochanan.
Yes.
Defense Rabbi Yochanan, right? The rest of the Gemara today is going to go on a side point because in order to say what we just said, we have to say that kazayis b'achilas pras is chayiv malchus. That's what we just said. We said we deflected the kasha by saying it's not hetem mistaflis Isser, it's kazayis b'achilas pras. And now the Gemara is going to go. Is that true? That kazayis b'achilas pras should be chayiv means if it's mixed in so much that you only have a kazayis within the pras and you ate the whole pras, so you chayiv for the kazayis that you ate. The Gemara sees that as a chiddush, and the Gemara is now going to talk about. So, what's changing gears now? We're going to go on to: is that true that achilas pras is the raisa, and that's going to be the next one.
Everybody knows.
So everybody knows that achilas pras is the raisa. I think over here maybe I thought I saw they talk about it. Maybe the pshat in the Pash pshat would be that it's talking about that it's mixed in, that you ate it mixed with other foods. If it will be you just have plain pure truma and kazayis of truma and you ate it with the lapse in between, maybe that's called the raisa. But now that it's mixed into the food, maybe that's more of a chiddush. I'm not sure if
That's
I'm
when we apply it.
what
That's when we apply it. We in our modern day,
is when you're only eating pure
right.
matzah, and you want to know if you ate achilas pras. So we give you the time limit of achilas pras. But now that it's mixed into other food, and altogether you ate the big pras, and within that you got inside that the ingredient that's only a kazayis, that's not considered bottle, and it's still here. Maybe that's the Gemara sitting. So and now it goes on. That's going to be the rest of the Gemara today. Not such a big daf, and it goes a little bit more to the next daf, and that's our daf for today. Then the Gemara is going to go back to the daf list, but now we're going on a cruise about achilas pras. The question is, achilas pras the raisa? So who's talking back and forth? Abai is talking about Rav Dimi defended Rabbi Yochanan, and now Abai is going back and saying, in order to say a pshat, you're saying achilas pras is the raisa. Amalei in. So Rav Dimi said yes, achilas pras is the raisa. So Abai has a kasha. Yachi amai pligi rabbanan alei Rabbi Lazar b'kutach habavli. Rabbi Lazar, which was mentioned really in Rabban Aleph, but we didn't go into the details. That over there, the thing about Sa'or, what is it? What was over there? Sa'or Bal Taktiru with the chametz. Over there is Rabbi Lazar, that Darshan's call. Over there, the subject was Kutach habavli. Kutach habavli is a kind of a dip that's chametz. And the question is if there's a lav of eating the Kutach habavli on Pesach. Either over in the Pesach, that if somebody eats it, is it going to be chayiv? Either over in the Pesach, one of the in Pesach in the Psachim over there, Perek Talmud, I think, Perek Gimel. Either over in the Pesach, Kutach habavli is one of them, and the Gemara over there, Psachim Daf Mem Gimel. Just they quote it over here. Maybe let's look it over here. Just a second. There's over there the Gemara in Psachim Daf Mem Gimel. Kol mafetzas lo sochelu the rabbis kutach habavli. And the Gemara says it going according to Rabbi Lazar because it says kikaloch chametz v'nitrus kikaloch mafetzas kol mafetzas lo sochelu. So if you eat kutach habavli, Rabbi Lazar says that that's included in the avera, and you have to have a drush over there. Maybe the Gemara called it hetem mitzvah l'isser. That's what the Gemara said before. Hetem mitzvah l'isser, maybe. That's what the Gemara meant by chametz also. Chametz also, right? That's what the Gemara meant. That Rabbi Lazar Darshan's call to say hetem mitzvah l'isser also by chametz. And the Gemara is asking, if so, ihachi that achilas pras is the raisa, even if you don't hold hetem mitzvah l'isser, I might pligi Rabbanan later Rabbi Lazar b'kutach habavli. How come by this dip the Rabbanan argue and say that you're not chayiv eating it? Even if you don't hold hetem mitzvah l'isser, you should be chayiv if you ate it kazayis with achilas pras. we're juggling with two concepts now. One is heter mistaf l'isser, means altogether you ate a kazayis, but it wasn't all isser, there was some heter, that's called heter mistaf l'isser. Then a new concept, which is more simple to us, that you ate altogether a kazayis of isser, but it was mixed into a bigger volume of other food, which is mutter, but altogether you ate a kazayis of isser. So the Gemara is asking, even if the Rabbanan don't agree to Abu Lazar to say heter mistaf l'isser, but they should say that if someone ate kutach habavli on Pesach, they also should be chayiv because they ate a kazayis with the achilas pras. They ate a kazayis of the isser alone. Amalei, he answered them. I'm not holding who's answering to who. I guess Rav Dimi. Rav Dimi is answering. Leave alone kutach habavli. That's different. The lack of kazayis with the achilas pras, because when you eat kutach habavli, you don't get a kazayis of the chametz within the time to eat achilas pras. Why is that? The Gemara is going to say because it's a dip. This thing you don't eat by itself. You don't eat it like regular food. You only dip. So if you're going to eat the kutach habavli as a whole volume, that's not the regular. It's like taking a dip. The dips that we have, no one's going to eat a lot of that dip. It's very sharp, and it's not the way you eat it.
People don't drink cleaner.
Right. That's the way to say it. Right. You have these dips on the table. No one's going to take the dip and eat it as regular food. You just dip in your food. So eat the kos sorry flame israf. If he's going to gulp it and take big volume of it, and that's how he got a kazayis with the chilas pras of this chametz, then it's not the regular way of eating it. And even though he physically ate the kazayis with the chilas pras, but it's not chai because it's not normal way of eating it. And eat the mishtar kashatar if they say like he spread it on his food like the regular way of eating it. That's what they say. I think spread. So lo meshkachas kazayis b'techilas pras, you're not going to get it. It means that this dip, you're only going to dip it, use it as a dip. You're not going to get a kazayis in the time that you ate it, in the time of eating a pras, because that's not the way you eat it. So we had one kasha. We're now in the sugya of achilas pras, but we're off the sugya of heter mistaf l'isser. We're in this new cruise over here. That the achilas pras, kasha number one was the case of kutach habavli. That even if you don't hold heter mistaf l'isser, you still should hold that you're chayiv because you ate a kazayis with achilas pras. The answer is no, you don't. Either if you eat it regularly, you're not going to get a kazayis with achilas pras because it's not a regular food. Even though the point is that even though the percentage, the proportion of the chametz to the other food might be a kazayis with achilas pras, you could have 4 volumes of the rest of the primary food and within 4 egg and 1 kazayis volume of the chametz. But it's a sharp food that you don't eat the whole volume as a regular food. So you're not going to get a kazayis with achilas pras. And if you are going to eat the whole volume, that's not normal. If you eat it slowly as a dip, you're not going to get a kazayis. And if in the right time span, and if you ate the whole thing in a fast time span, that's not the regular way of eating. That was answered. Next question. We're all in the sugya now of that kazayis with achilas pras. Espe kasha from a mishnah. I think it's a mishnah, maybe a brisa. Shnei meduchos, achas shel truma v'achas shel chulin. A meducha is how you pound a mortar, a pistol, to get used together with a pistol that you ground things, spices, whatever it might be, onions, and you would use that into food. So here the case was you had shtei meduchos, 2 of these mortars, one of truma, one of chulin, one of shtei kideros, and there were 2 pots in front of these 2 mortars, achas shel truma v'achas shel chulin. And the contents of one of the mortars fell into one of the pots, and of the other mortar fell into the other.
I thought the mortar is the clean. What?
The mortar is the receptacle, and the pistol is the hammer. Pestle?
Pestle. Okay, so the mortar has food in it.
It's a small thing. It's used for spices.
Right. That's how you grind spices.
We're not talking about the cleat. We're talking about ingredients in the cleat. Right.
But the case was that's what he was doing. This was used to grind the spices, and he had two of the spices are there.
Yeah.
One of them is truma, one of them is chulin.
Okay.
And under it he had 2 pots, one of truma, one of chulin. And we hope that the truma fell into the truma and the chulin fell into the chulin, but it might have been the opposite.
Okay.
It might have been that the truma fell into the chulin and the chulin fell into the truma, and you have it'd be problems because everything's going to be truma. So
all have to be eaten by the Kohen.
By the Kohen, and you have to give it for free or sell it, for the price of truma, which is very cheap. So here's the case: they had 2 meduchos, 2 mortars, one of truma content and one of chulin content. Well, the front of shtei kideros, in front of them with two pots, and both the mortar's contents fell into the two pots, and you don't know if it fell in the lucky way or the bad way, you're allowed to assume that everything went well and the truma fell into the truma and the chulin fell into the chulin. Shani Omer, because I say, I assume
This is still part of it.
it's part of the brisa,
Shani
because
Omer.
I can assume chulin naflu, the truma naflu, that everything went well. Now that's very nice wishful thinking, but why is he allowed to do that? Why is he allowed to assume so? It must be that it's only Rabbanan. For Rabbanan, if the whole issue will be Rabbanan, so then we could say the Rabbanan are allowed to make this leniency. But if it will be a chashash, maybe there's this or the Raisa going on, you wouldn't be allowed to just assume. You'd have to be choshesh. And that's what the Gemara is asking, that l'chor you got a kazayis b'chtei achilas pras. The Gemara is assuming that the proportion of the spice that fell into the pot is a kazayis b'chtei achilas pras. Maybe the Gemara could have answered that it's not. I'm not sure, but the Gemara is gonna, let's see, okay, but that's the most common. I might make and say I'm allowed to assume that everything fell the way the wishful thinking. Maybe it didn't. It must be it's only Rabbanan. So even though you are going to end up eating a kazayas within a chilas pras, that it got mixed into this mixture of food, and you're going to end up eating a kazayas of this spice of truma spice in the time of eating a pras, it must be that it's not the raisa. If it would be the raisa, you wouldn't be able to be makel. Is that not a kasha on Rav Dimi, who said that kazayas chilas pras is the raisa? The Gemara says no. Elam, first of all, the more challenges back also. Not only says the answer, it says you also would be difficult, no matter what you're going to say. If you want to prove from here that you don't say the process that Raisa, Rav Dimi says back to Abaye, you're also not going to be any better. What do you want to say? You learned that hetem mitzaf l'isser. That also would have been a kasha. If you have the spices that fell into the food, and when you can eat the food, you're going to be eating the spices also. So you should, by truma, you hold by truma also. That's what Abaye wanted to do. He wanted to show that even by truma, you say hetem mitzaf l'isser, and that's also the Raisa. So you didn't gain anything either, because if you're going to end up eating the food in the pot, and it has the spices of truma, and you ate it's a hetem mitzaf l'isser, so you ate it because I saw this also. So you're not better than me. You must say the following teretz: Ella hanech truma stavlin rabbanan, that the whole truma that you take from spices is only with rabbanan, but the rice you don't have truma from spices. So it is rabbanan, not because zayis b'dechilas process is not the rice. Zayis b'dechilas is the rice, but the whole truma here is rabbanan because there's no mitzvah the rice to take of truma from spices. So I have to go back and just take back my example. I said that onions, for example, you were pounding onions. I think that they places onions is not a spice. Taisus says that foods that you could eat as is, even though you made a spice out of it, you did use it as a condiment, but since it also could be used as a whole food, so you don't say on that tavlin is rabbanan. So you have to get a different example of what he was, a different spice that's only used as a spice, not as a whole food. Okay, good. And the more is asking that he ended up eating a kazayas. There's a lot of pepper, so I'm asking something in between. So a kazayas with dechilas pras, that it was still some kind of a spice that it's normal to have such a proportion. And the Gemara said, how could you do it? The answer is first the Gemara,
oregano or basil.
When?
Oregano.
Okay, that it would be normal to put in a kazayas to a volume of an olive to the volume of 4 eggs. That would be a good proportion. And the more discussion was, how could you be lenient? It's the raisa. If the truma fell into the oregano truma fell into the pot.
But even onions is not rice.
Rotev, like the pasta.
Yeah, the pasta and stuff. So
Pasta rotev,
yeah,
call it,
and the whole thing you'll end up eating a kazayis of the oregano of truma within a pras. And the Gemara says the rice. The answer is that it's the truma of the oregano is only rabbanan. Yes, Dr. Fine.
Even onions are only made of bottom.
Why is that?
But truma is fruits and grain.
The Gemara is going to be saying, what's the Gemara going to say soon? Why does the Gemara say only tavlin? You're saying that anything that's not is rabbanan.
Anything that's what?
anything that's not wine grain or oil. So I'm not, is that what?
Are there 3 levels?
That this also might be, that is
Even
machlokes.
if you don't know, even if you don't know yitzhar, in other words, maybe spices is even on the lower level than other things. That's what
So the question is, the Gemara's mashma, the only Tavlin is Rabbanan, and Dr. Fine is asking that everything is Rabbanan besides Dagadish. So it's machlokes who? Rishonim or what? Rishon. Okay. Okay.
I remember it's a machlokas,
Uh-huh.
and I was thinking maybe even according to the shita, which it was archayim, but I don't know.
That'll be more than you have to. There's more bigger leniency of Tavlin than those other things. Okay, we're leaving it on hold. Okay, thank you about that. Next kasha. So again, we're still attacking. You say kazais with the achilas pras is the rising. It's going to be the same kasha over again, but instead of talking about spices, here's going to be talking about grain falling into grain or things that are derisa, which seemingly. Yeah, it says shtei kupos. A kupa is a box. It's not a meducha. Meducha was a mortar that you have spices inside. So Gemara was able to say in the mortar is only spices. Spices is truma d'Rabbanan. But here goes shtei kupos. There were 2 boxes. Achas shel truma, achas shel chulin. But if then shtei sayin, this sounds like the big bushel, and the kupa fell into the saw, and you hope that the truma fell into the truma, the chulin to the chulin, but it might have been the opposite. Achas shel chulin, achas shel truma. But not chulelu l'sochelu, and you don't know which fell into which. Means you know the ones in the bottom, which is truma, which is chulin, but you don't know those kupos, which one was which, and you don't know if the truma fell into the chulin. Shnein mutarim. Again, you're allowed to have the wishful thinking. Shani yomer chulin l'sachulin naflu, truma l'sachuma naflu. You're allowed to assume that it fell in the correct way. And the kasha is again, you can end up eating ksayis with dechilas pras. Yisakadat ksayis dechilas pras is the raisa amayam minan shani yomer. And here the Gemara does explain why it would be better if you say etem etzaf lisser, but you don't say kazayis with achilas pras. As the Gemara continues here, top line on daf lamed zayin. Abai says, I say that tetem etzaf lesser by truma, but I don't say kazayis with achilas pras is daraisa. So I could get out of it over here. I could say going to the fishi chulin that you have more chulin than truma. And even though I say tetem etzaf lesser, this what the Gemara is not throws like a first one that we didn't think about till now, that even if you say heter mustafla isser, it's only if there's more isser or at least equal. But if you have more chulin, then you don't say this concept called heter mustafla.
The fish means more.
The fish means more. That I can say here, the reason why you don't say heter mustafla isser is because there's more chulin. Means when the kupa fell into the saw, even if the truma fell in, but there's less truma than there was the chulin in the saw, and therefore you're not going to say heter mustafla isser. But you say that kazayis dechilas pras is deraisa, then I don't care if there's more chulin. Because l'maisa, if you ate a kazayis to the proportion of a dechilas pras, you did a issa deraisa. So how can you fish a chulin my havi? What's the difference if there's more chulin? It doesn't help because you're going to still be eating kazayis dechilas pras, and it's going to be deraisa. And here it's not spices; it's deraisa. The answer is amalei anach l'truma b'zman hazeh d'Rabbanan. That you must say this. I must say that this case is talking about only bisman hazeh, even any kind of truma, even on grain, is only going to be d'Rabbanan. This has to do with what? With Am Yisrael, Rov Yisrael Leha. I think it has to do with the subject of Am Yisrael being in Eretz Yisrael. The trumas deraisa or not. So he'll say also the cases that's d'Rabbanan, not because the proportion that you're eating is not going to be a deraisa proportion. It would be pras. The reason why it's Rabbanan is because any truma b'zman is Rabbanan. But if there'd be a deraisa, kazayis dechilas pras is deraisa. End of the sugya today. What did we start with? We started with heter mustaf lissa, which I see we're going to continue tomorrow again. Yimai dai mishras heter mustaf lissa. That's tomorrow's sugya. We're going back to it again. But so far the Gemara started with this new concept by nazir. Surely, nobody questioned that it's by nazir. We might see that it might change also. But so far the Gemara is going to be going that by nazir you do say heter mustaf lissa. Maybe according to Rabbi Lazar, that Darsh is called, maybe also by Sor Baltaktira and by omelets. I don't know what happened. Okay, I don't know what that's all about. Okay, and what else can I say? And then the Gemara said, how about truma that you found a Mishnah by truma with miut, a little bit garlic and oil of truma inside a porridge of chulin, that it says that if the tul yom touched it, he does make the garlic still it has identity over here. It's still there. How come it didn't become batal? Rabbi Yochanan said, because if you eat a kazayis of it, it's still chayiv malchus. So that shows that that's right. It doesn't lose its identity. What did Rabbi Yochanan mean to say? It doesn't he mean etem and staff listen even by truma, that if you had a kazayis of the whole combination, that's enough to be chayiv? And the Radimi said no, it's because of kazayis b'lechdei pras. If you only ate a kazayis sum total, so then you didn't get a kazayis of truma, but you ate a kedei pras of the whole combination, and in there you got a kazayis. That's enough to make that you ate a kazayis, and that the Gemara wakes up to this new subject of kazayis b'lechdei pras deraisa. We had 3 kashas. One of them. You got the first one?
The Kutech Chababli.
Kutech Chababli, right? That even though Rabbanan don't hold that Kutech Chababli, you say Hetem Estaf Lissa, but they should say Chai because of their Chilas Pras. And that the Gemara answered, when you eat this dip called Kutech Chababli, you don't get exercise to Chilas Pras, because if you eat it normally, it's a very slow way of eating. And if you do not abnormal, then you can take a Chilas Pras of it. That's not how you eat the dip. And the next kasha was from spices falling into the pot of food, and you don't know which one fell into which, and you're allowed to be makel with the wishful thinking that the right fell into the right one. Why? It must be only Rabbana. And the answer is because Tavlin is Rabbana. The next kasha was from a kupa into a sword that's not anymore Tavlin anymore, and says the same thing. How come you don't? It must be that even if you can eat, it's only going to be Rabbana. That must be that you don't say Kedas with a Chilas Pras. If you say Heter with Staf Lisser, that's only when it's equal or more Isser. But if you have more Heter, you don't say that. So how come over here it's Rabbanan? Don't you see it? Don't say Kedas with a Chilas Pras is not Raisa? And then my answer is you must say that I could say that it's talking about Bisman Hazeh, that everything's Rabbanan.
In spices, I understand that if it's the ikra of the food you're making, then you would have to take
What do you mean that's the ikra? The spices is never the ikra.
Sometimes it is.
The spice is the ikra, then it's not a spice.
Well, basil.
Getting the most
Basil is used as a spice.
Yeah, but it's not the ikra. What do you put it into?
Pesto. Pesto is a dish.
Pesto is also only pesto is the dish, or pesto is also only a condiment. You're not going to get. I mean, what are you asking over there? That you'll say that.
That it would be something like pesto, but then it's derisive. If the basil is for the pesto.
But the whole pesto is only a kutam. It's only a kind of right. You don't need so much pesto over there.
What about tabbouleh?
I have to be invited to your house. I have to visit you sometime. I don't know these things. So
We
what?
haven't had it in a long time, but that's with, what do you call it? It's with some,
Parsley and stuff.
it's a lot of parsley, but it's also with wheat.
Okay, it's the wheat.
No,
wheat.
in the parsley, tabbouleh doesn't